Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma here to a Kagurabachi Chapter number 121. This chapter is titled, The Irishima Talks End. And I say end as in end, because it is all in capital letters, which is very funny to me, being that like the rest of the Irishima Talks is like standard capitalization of the T in the is capitalized, the first I in Irishima is capitalized, and the T in talks is also capitalized. So it's just very funny when they will just want to make sure that we know that, like, hey, this conflict is over. There is nothing more happening. It is the end of it all. But of course, this has been a very interesting, like, 5 chapter long arc now, with the Irishima talks pretty much going through and happening. And of course, with what happened at the end of last chapter and pretty much an asteroid falling from the sky, granted, like, it wasn't an actual asteroid, it was Mashiro using his pressure waves to compress down the warship, and then Kurotsuchi wielded by Hiroto to send it into the ground. I'm calling it an asteroid because, like, that's pretty much what it was. And of course, Aryu got trapped under it, and of course, Aryu got hit by that big chunk of iron, and Shiba was barely able to teleport himself and Yoshinojo out of the way, so it just hit Aryu. And that's pretty much where we start this chapter of Kagurabachi, with all of the smoke rumbling around. And it's very funny. It's like we even see all of the couches and coffee table right next to that pine tree where the Irishima talks were supposed to happen, all get just like blown away by the sheer force of, like, yeah, pretty much the equivalent of an asteroid just hit this island. But as all of that smoke and everything is rolling through, we first need to talk about the actual color page we got for this chapter of Kagurabachi, which is announcing the results of the first official Kagurabachi popularity poll. I say first official because a bunch of the Kagurabachi community online on spaces such as Twitter and Reddit have already done like their fan-made popularity poll results, but this is the first official one handled by Shueisha and Hokuzono's team, pretty much. And I really just do love this color page, as it is just extremely simple. We see Chihiro here, we see Iruha, we see Hakuri, Shiba, and Samura, who got top 5 in that respective order. And it's just fun because they're all sort of just like standing around here in like typical like samurai training uniforms. I don't know what these are called, but I've seen people wear things like this in Bleach. So you know what? They use swords there, they use swords here. It's all the same thing at the end of the day. But I really just love this style of the characters just standing around. It really, as I mentioned Bleach a second ago, just reminds me of all of the various like Bleach color pages where we just see all of the characters just standing around hanging out in these 2-page spreads. And I really hope that Hokuzono is able to draw more of those in the future. Just a few notes about this popularity poll. We get the total number of 23,196 total votes were sent in for all of these Kagurabachi characters, which is really, really cool. And again, this top 5 I also just find interesting. Chihiro having first place with 3,930 votes just checks out to me. You know, like that math just seems like it works at the end of the day. Second place being Iruha slightly miffs me a little bit because, like, I understand Iruha is very popular. I mean, he was a character popular enough to die and then get brought back in a very cool reveal. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Iruha as much as the next guy, but I did not figure that he'd be getting second place out of anybody, really. And we see that Iruha ended up getting 2,678 votes. Third place is my personal favorite character in Kagurabachi, Hakuri Sazanami, with 2,201 votes. I just love the image we get of Hakuri here. He's just like leaning down, almost like tying his shoe or standing back up after something. It's pretty cool. Fourth place being Shiba. Also, I'm just like, huh? What are we doing here? Because, like, Shiba's cool. He hasn't done much. And really, this whole arc of looking back in the past with the Seitai War is the first time we've seen Shiba really do anything in a long while. Shiba ended up getting 1,444 votes. And then, fifth place, Seichi Samura. It makes perfect sense to me with 1,275 votes. And of course, that's the top 5, but as we go ahead and move into what the rest of the rankings look like, I don't know why I didn't have it open on my computer. I had a screenshot of it, but for some reason I didn't keep it open. Here we go, here we got it. Sixth place is where we really start to get weird in a lot of things, and I do not have any of the numbers for spots 15 all the way down through 15, really 14, but we'll be getting down there in a second. But we ended up seeing that 6th place went to Inji Sazanami, which is very weird because I don't think anybody was looking at like, oh yeah, let's look at the Kagurabachi popularity poll. Injin Sazanami, yeah, he's definitely going to be up there. Apparently, the story behind this one is that some woman in Japan was just like, I really love Inji a whole lot. I want to get him onto the popularity poll results. So I'm pretty sure it was volume 9 that you were able to buy and vote. It may have been volume 10. It's one of these volumes, but you buy it and there's a postcard inside that you fill out and you send off to it. And apparently, this lady just bought so many copies of that volume of Kagurabachi and sent it in that Inji Sazanami ended up getting 6th place, which is, you know what? Pretty weird. Hirohiko ended up getting 7th place, checks out. Aizami got 8, checks out. Soya Sazanami got 9, which is so interesting to me because a lot of the fan base really loves Soya, and I don't think it's that they like him as a person, but more like the character arc that he is going through. Of course, we get the whole idea that he's still alive, his amnesia arc that we got revealed in the bonus chapter before this current Seitai War arc began. We know that Soya is still alive and kicking and that he will be brought back into the story eventually, but until that happens, I guess we're just going to be seeing him in all of the bonus chapters because, I mean, hey, I guess that's what people want to see. 10 is also extremely weird, as we have Fushimi, which is the smoke axe guy. I used to call him Bandana Sorcerer back in the day. He's the sorcerer who worked with Uruha at the Kokugoku Hot Spring, which is just one of those weird things that, wow, I wonder why Fushimi got that spot of all places. But you know what? If people like him, I mean, he had a cool design. I don't think we're seeing him come back because Hirohiko did yeah, I'm not going to talk about that one, but you know what? The Student of Freedom continues to freedom. Hyuki Kagari ended up getting number 11, which is, it is a little weird to be like, yeah, there's no female characters in the top 10, but being that, like, I'm going to be real with you, at this point there's only like 3 really important female characters in Kagurabachi. You know what, I'll actually make that 4 now with recent revelations in the arc, but it's really, we look at like, oh yeah, we have Hyuki, we have Char, we have Iori, and we now have Chiaki, Chihiro's mother. And it's like, okay, Hyuki, I'm going to be real though, isn't one of my favorite characters in Kagurabachi, but it's still cool that she ended up getting in the top 11. Genichi Sojo got 12. The first villain still is unrivaled in amounts of popularity. As I mean, hey, we won't even see any of the other villains above him on this list, besides for, I guess, Inji Sazanami and Soya. So, like, sure, man. 13 is Yura. Makes sense, he's a Shaku leader. And then tied for 14th place with both 503 votes, at least on the tweet that I saw announcing all of this, is both Iori and Natsuki, which is very funny. I would have hoped for Iori to be higher up in the list, but you know, maybe being that she will be wielding Tobi Mune now, we again don't really know how all that's going to be working out. We should be seeing more of her in the core story, and then, of course, that's more ways for people to be like, oh yeah, Iori, I really like her, and yeah, she's a good character, and vote her higher in the rankings. And then Natsuki, guy is 14th place, you know, it's a little weird. I like Hokuto more than Natsuki personally, and they were both revealed in the same chapter, and I really think have had about the same amount of screen time, all things considered, but hey, if people like Natsuki that much, good for them. And that is the top 15 of the Kagurabachi popularity poll results. There's probably the rest of the results out there, but I actually don't think I have seen them. But you know what, with all of that being said, let's now finally get to this chapter of Kagurabachi. Again, the big chunk of iron just hit the ground and smoke waves are coming out from everywhere. The massive amount of like force and pressure that this thing hitting the ground, all of these shock waves emanating out, have pretty much just like sent all of these couches and everything else flying. And after this crater has been formed in Irishima, we see that Shiba teleports back into where the crater is. And as he does this, we see that Ryu is still alive. And Ryu is standing here. It's honestly very gruesome as we see his left shoulder has just been completely destroyed and it's slowly like bubbling and regenerating here in the moment. Honestly, very similar to the way that we saw Yuki Sada's regeneration worked a few chapters ago. With that, we see Shiba's just thinking like, damn it, let's go, it worked. But he is regenerating, as Hiroto appears right behind Ryu here in a moment, holding his blade out, going through, and he starts to slice through the back of Aryu. But Aryu, even though he's like not doing very well, and with his left arm, which is again barely attached at this point, he comes over and attempts to block Hiroto's sword swing. Hiroto just thinks their Sumika seems to harness the Datenseki's power to create an advantageous environment. As we see in the moment, Aryu lifts up his right foot and stomps it on the ground, changing the environment around him. As we see it just like shatters up in the moment, all of these stones jump up into the air, creating like difficult terrain for all of our good guys. Hiroto also then just thinks, for themselves it heals and nullifies enemy sorcerer attacks, and for the enemy it dulls their senses, as he just thinks this is like beyond problematic. I'll weigh him down with my own body, as he yells out to Aryu like, hey, I'm going to take you with me to the bottom of the earth. And as he looks down to like where the earth is, we see that Aryu is levitating once again, and Hiroto sees this as like, oh, this isn't good. Shiba then jumps in the moment, grabbing the arm of Aryu and getting ready to teleport both of them out of there, as Aryu just thinks, so heavy, as heavy as that Soga guy. As we finally get the reveal of Shiba's sorcery, also known as Itazora or Wicked Trick. It enables him to activate a momentary error for himself and whomever he touches, freely manipulating their positional information and physical properties such as height, weight, so on and so forth. As in the moment, we see that Shiba has grabbed Aryu, and it seems like he's getting ready to use one of these momentary errors to change their positional data, or change some physical properties such as his weight, of course with the whole gravity stuff, right? Well, Shiba grabs him and just says like, man, I can't used to handling his weight. It's beyond the threshold. As Hiroto also just looks over at Aryu and just thinks, wait, how is he still moving? As then pressure waves come in to force a bunch of the scrap metal back towards Aryu, holding him in place even more. As we see, it's Mashiro. As Mashiro's thinking, yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll restrain him with scraps of iron. And Hiroto's like, no, Mashiro, like, you're going to die. As Mashiro just, I've got Mr. Shiba with me. He'll teleport me back before I bleed to death. And Shiba's like, yeah, that's right. And he's like, all right here and now, we'll finish him. As on one side, we have Kurotsuchi wielded by Hiroto, holding down Aryu. The other side is Shiba using his Itazora. We have the Aku pressure waves holding him in place. And then Yoshinojo also coming in, wielding his sword. And as he is getting ready to strike, Aryu looks up at Yoshinojo. And on his chest is, of course, a part of the Datenseki, a little piece of the greater rock. And as Yoshinojo comes in attempting to strike, we see 3 holes blown into Yoshinojo. They are all connecting into each other, and all 3 are bigger than the previous one. And as they all go through, Shiba looks over. As we get some narration. Up till now, the reconstruction of the environment that devastated Japan's strongest warriors was merely the side effect of the Sumika wielded by the 6 Mikaboshi Guardians. Its real power is the power to annihilate the enemy, which occurs in tandem with a unique spirit energy reaction. And as Yoshinojo is now dead, pierced open by all of these blasts of energy, above Aryu forms a scorpion made out of the spectral black ichor that we've often seen the Magotsumi and of course the General Danseki control. And of course, it's an insect, which looks very much like everything to do with this series and the power of the Danseki. Aryu then says, this is a climax. And in the same moment, he looks at Hiroto. The scorpion takes a look as well and pierces through Hiroto 3 times, creating all of these holes ripping Hiroto apart. Shiba sees all of this, one thought in his mind: Mashiro is next. And as he turns around, Mashiro's already been pierced through by the scorpion, dead as well. And then it come time for Shiba. Shiba looks back, remembers Mashiro picking up the blade that he gave him, and in the moment we see that blade pierced on, getting thrown by some pressure waves, Mashiro's final stand at Aryu. And as it goes and tries to pierce Aryu's neck, the blade just can't reach any further. As Aryu just says, "I didn't intend to use this power today, but you surprised me." He reaches up and grabs Mashiro's blade, grabbing it in his right arm and swinging it at Shiba, slitting his neck. Blood flies everywhere. As we just see here, the crater where the chunk of iron fell. And we get the chapter title, Chapter 121, The Irishima Talks End. As here in the moment, we see the dead bodies of Hiroto, Yoshinojo, and Mashiro, and also the body of Shiba, which is being dragged along by Aryu. At this point, we cut over to a little bit of a flashback and a remembrance scene that Mashiro has before he fully fades out. As he just thinks, "I figured the reason I got paired up with Shiba was to balance the two of us out because I'm just a runt." As we see, Mashiro leans forward whenever he officially first met Shiba. Hasumi's also there introducing the two, and he's like, "It's an honor to meet you, sir." And Shiba's like, "Hey, dude, like, no need to be so formal." And Mashiro just thinks, "My folks kicked me out when I was little, and the sorcery bro took me in. But they were all about training. I don't think I ever experienced any actual warmth. Everything a kid isn't supposed to do, you taught me. Like, seriously, dude, take responsibility." As we just get a very funny panel here in the moment, which looks like alcohol on the table. We see a bunch of cigarettes in an ashtray here, and pretty much Shiba teaching all of this to Mashiro, which, yeah, Shiba definitely not the best role model. I'm glad he didn't, like, force smoking on the Chihiro, you know? But either way, Mashiro is just taking a cigarette in his hands, and he just says, "Hey, if they catch us, you better take the licks with me." And Shiba's like, "Don't worry, dumbass. We'll blow the joint before they catch either of us. And we'll do it with my sorcery." And Mashiro just thinks, "So where was I? The reason I'm Shiba's partner. It's obvious. Who else could it be?" As we see Mashiro grabbing the sword, and Mashiro and Shiba both arm in arm, laughing and smiling, contrasted with Mashiro's body bleeding out, dead on the ground. We then cut over to the buddy, Shiba, who is being dragged by Aryu over to the tree where all of the Irishima talks was supposed to happen. And Shiba just thinks, "He slit my throat. Why am I alive?" And as he's thinking all of this, we see the conch where we see the king of the Mikaboshi, Aryu's father, standing here, along with a few of these guardians who seem to be regenerated here in the moment. As Aryu just explains to Shiba, "Sumika grants me and my comrades the gift of healing. I've applied that gift to you as a special dispensation, but just enough to avoid a lethal wound. Thanks to the excessive blood loss, you're barely conscious, and your strength is utterly exhausted. Don't try to move." And Shiba can't handle this. He knows Mashiro and the rest are dead, as he just thinks, why? As he teleports up using his sorcery, grabs his foot trying to change the weight properties, and sling it into Aryu's head, but it doesn't matter. Aryu comes through, slinging his fist into Shiba's chest, pounding him on the ground, and of course, applying a little bit more of that Sumika to keep him alive, as Shiba just thinks, why haven't you killed me too? As I find this really funny, Aryu walks over to one of the couches, flips it up, and then drags it over right in front of Shiba on the ground. Well, your sorcery is quite useful. We need a messenger to relay our demands and tell of our military superiority. And Shiba's eyes just can't handle any of this anymore. As we get some narration, as Ryu sits down on the couch looking down at Shiba. The Irishima talks. Nobuharu Himura, Tetsuo Harita, Akira Takamiya, Hiroto Soga, Yoshinojo Soga, Shuji Mashiro. These 6 men were killed. Togo Shiba, one man alone, returned to Japan. And that's where we end this chapter of Kagurabachi. The Irishima Talks End on a very somber moment. Now, really, there's not much I want to say in the final thoughts section of this video because, to be fair, a lot of it just gets put on the table here. We get some more introduction to very weird powers, and all of the other powers we learned about in this arc are now sort of useless, as we know Kurotsuchi died with Hiroto, and there may be somebody in the future who's able to wield the Kurotsuchi sorcery, but the whole idea that's been passed down from generation to generation, who knows, if Hiroto didn't have a kid, maybe it didn't properly transfer right. But also, we know recently with Chiaki, she wasn't part of the main line, but she still inherited the prophecy of the Soga princess. So, like, who knows? There may be some ideas of in the future where Kurotsuchi could come back. Aku, pressure waves, Mashiro did die, and I honestly really do like the moment that we get with Mashiro of like, hey, who else could have been Shiba's partner? It only could have been me. Granted, it doesn't carry a lot of, like, big emotional weight, but it's still really nice at the end of the day, and, like, I just have a smile on my face looking at it, even though of the somber moment that it means that Mashiro is dead, a character who I thought was personally going to be surviving on into the future, and being the Kabanabi, one of the Kabanabi leaders we currently know. But this also sort of gives me into the whole idea of maybe that Kabanabi leader is Mashiro's younger brother or older brother. And the reason they didn't really like Shiba, or one of the reasons Shiba left, is because he felt guilty about not only getting Mashiro killed, but then his brother has something to do with it. I don't know, maybe there's a lot of storytelling potential for that in the future, you know? But along with all of this, the big moment is like, hey, everybody is dead, and Shiba is now left alive with all of these memories, and has to relay this information back to the Japanese government and the Sorcery Bureau, which, as we know, is why in that sort of pseudo flash forward we saw a few chapters ago, where Shiba was sitting in that room just like crying over everything that happened during the Irishima talks, well, it makes perfect sense now. And that's what I gotta say about this chapter of Kagurabachi. A very effective chapter leading us into the future as we move on with the rest of the Seitei War arc. And with that, I will catch you guys next time. If you guys did enjoy this video, I've covered every single chapter of Kagurabachi currently released so far after chapter number like 44 or something like that. The playlist of all those videos will be in the description box of this video along with the end card of this video as well. Check out this show on the Glowplasma Talks podcast along on the Glowplasma YouTube channel for all my other content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. This will be Glowplasma signing